Good morning. Welcome to Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards, and Brittany is on assignment. She'll be coming back with us later this week. Glad to have you with us this morning here on a brisk, once again, Monday morning at about 40 degrees in Savannah. Although it is, we had a very cold weekend. It is going to be warming up for the rest of the week, and a little shower activity going along with it. Glad to have you aboard here. And once again, a lot has changed since we were with you on Thursday with Ron DeSantis dropping out of the Republican race. And we'll be talking about that just momentarily. Before we get started into the show this morning, and I just noticed a story that was on the website at WSAV, which is on your side, as you know. One of my friends and colleagues of years and years gone past, and a guy I even grew up watching on television at first, and then working with him as a colleague, which was a great honor to know him. Jim Clayton has passed away at the age of 77. He was their sports anchor at WSAV for a number of years. Jim and I worked together at WTOC on several projects. Went up to Athens to do some specials with Georgia starting a new season, and did some features on UGA and other things that we did together. And he's just an all-around fine gentleman. A guest in his home on several occasions with his wife and great family that he had and wonderful kids. Our condolences go out to Jim Clayton, who has passed away at the age of 77. Jim, go with God. One fine gentleman. Another fine gentleman that we're talking about today is Ron DeSantis. I think was misguided in his attempt to run for president of the United States at such an early age, and after such an overwhelming victory in Florida as governor. I thought that he could serve out as governor. He told him he was going to, and really bring that state, behind Donald Trump big time, and then wait and run in 2028. But he decided not to do that. I don't know who his advisors were, but they weren't very good. But Ron DeSantis this weekend calling it a day.
Greetings from Florida. The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq, to representing the people in the U.S. Congress, and now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president, to fight for those who have been forgotten in this country. This is America's time for choosing. We can choose to allow a border invasion, or we can choose to stop it. We can choose reckless borrowing and spending, or we can choose to limit government and lower inflation. We can choose political indoctrination, or we can choose classical education. These choices are symptoms of the underlying struggle to ensure that constitutional government can endure and that Western civilization can survive. And we launched this campaign to bring accountability to government, regain sovereignty at our border, and restore sanity to our society. We cannot succeed as a country if we allow our nation to be invaded, our currency to be debased, our cities to crumble, and our kids to be indoctrinated. The DC elites who facilitated this mess do not care about you, and they do not work for you. They work for themselves. They seek to accumulate power at your expense to pursue an agenda that is harmful to the American people. Citizens do not serve politicians. It is the duty of politicians to serve you. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Reversing the decline of this nation requires leadership that delivers big results for the people we are elected to serve. I have a record of leading with conviction, championing an agenda marked by bold colors, delivering on my promises, and defeating the people who are responsible for our nation's decline. That is the type of leadership we need for all of America. Now, over the past many months, Casey and I have traveled across the country to deliver a message of hope that decline is a choice and that we can, in fact, succeed again as a nation. Nobody worked harder, and we left it all out on the field. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents. The days of putting Americans last, of kowtowing to large corporations, of caving to woke ideology are over. I thank all of our passionate supporters who have stood by us through it all. That we had people volunteer to come to Iowa in the middle of a blizzard to knock on doors and make phone calls touched us dearly. No candidate had more thrown at him, but no candidate had so many committed volunteers and staff. Finally, I want to thank my wife, Casey, and our kids, Madison, Mason, and Mamie. Casey's gone far above and beyond in her support for our campaign and for our cause. She's not only a great wife and mother, she's a great American who cares deeply about the future of the country that our kids will inherit. Our kids have seen and done a lot on the trail, from playing on the famed Field of Dreams baseball site in Iowa to making their first snowman in New Hampshire. They are one of the reasons we fight so hard for what we believe in. Winston Churchill once remarked that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. While this campaign has ended, the mission continues. Down here in Florida, we will continue to show the country how to lead. Thank you, and God bless.
And hopefully this is going to reinvigorate his political career, because I think it was about to hit the rocks. He now is back in Florida. He owes the people of Florida a big apology. He ran saying that he won overwhelmingly in every category you can imagine. It was a landslide in his victory for governor. Right now, I'm not sure he could win a primary. He's got to apologize to the people of Florida, say he's back for good, he's going to fill out his term, and he's going to make that state one of the best in the country. Already is, but let's make it even better. Meanwhile, another nail in the coffin for Nikki Haley because of him dropping out, because I think most of his, you can weigh in on this as well, I think most of his supporters are going to go to DeSantis supporters, that is, are going to go to Donald Trump. But what do you think? We'd like to hear. And so you can send us an email along those lines. Tim Scott, the great South Carolina senator that I've had the pleasure of interviewing and knowing since he was a congressman back many years ago when I met him at a change of command ceremony at the Marine Corps Air Station some years back, has had a wonderful political career, and he's decided not only did he drop out of the race early, but now he's endorsing Donald Trump as well.
Knows what it's like to run for president and also what it feels like to withdraw and suspend his campaign. Tim Scott was once on the debate stage with DeSantis and Haley and recently endorsed former President Trump. And he joins us now from the great state of South Carolina. Welcome to you, Senator. Let me ask you this. Was it a question of, hey, how are you? Was it a question of endorsing Trump versus another candidate, or was it a question of Trump versus just sitting it out and endorsing no one?
You know, Trey, that's a great question. For me, it really came down to either sitting out or endorsing someone who could lead this nation to the highest level possible, and that was simply Donald Trump. Having an opportunity to work with him from 2017 to 2020, we produced the highest opportunity zones in the nation ever. Opportunity zones actually put more resources in the poorest communities across the country. We cut taxes by $2.3 trillion. It was fantastic to work with the former president in such a way that we produced the kind of results that said to the American people, no matter where you live, no matter the color of your skin, no matter what coast you're on, no matter whether you're in a blue state or a red state, your life is going to be better because Donald Trump was president. I made the decision to endorse the president because it was the only option on the table to move America forward. So it wasn't, how do I help Nikki or how do I help President Trump? It was, how do I help America? And the only way to help America was to focus on Donald Trump.
All right, Senator, I want to get you to respond to something. I heard a Nikki Haley supporter suggest that you would not have had a job if it were not for her. And I could have sworn that you were in the House, which I admit is not a great job, but you had a job. And then you had to run for re-election 3 times statewide on your own. So to those who say you owed her something, your response is what?
Well, it's simple. I heard Governor Sununu's comments as well. He was born on third base. Your father's the governor, your brother's a U.S. senator, and you're going to give employment advice. Well, I can say this about South Carolina. I ran against Strom Thurmond's son and won. The governor's namesake son, Carroll Campbell Jr., I ran against his son and won. So getting to Congress was not just an easy path. But more importantly, Nikki did what was best for South Carolina. I'm going to do what's best for America, and that's why I endorsed Donald Trump.
All right, real quickly, let me ask you this. Midterm night 2022, you had an overwhelming victory, so did Marco, so did Ron DeSantis, and yet it seems the primary voters are sticking with the former president. You talked to voters for months and months.
Yeah.
What do you think explains that voter loyalty?
Well, it's really down to results. The American voter, especially Republicans, are concerned that the democracy is in jeopardy. You look at the results of Joe Biden, the highest inflation we've seen in decades, since the Jimmy Carter years. That means that the average young person can't afford to buy a house. You look at the devastation around the world. When President Trump was in office, we had peace across the world. Ukraine was not facing an invasion from Russia. China was not looking at Taiwan and chopping, licking their chops. We had the kind of world that we could be proud of because we had a strong American president. The voters, conservative voters and independent voters, want a return to some normalcy. They want the restoration of law and order. They want Donald Trump.
All right, presidential politics was not foremost on your mind this weekend, I don't think. I think the world's most eligible bachelor is no longer a bachelor. Is that correct? I think you are now engaged to be married, and I think that's hearts breaking all over the world that I hear right now.
Well, Trey, I will say without any question, Saturday was the day that I isolated for the last several weeks. As a matter of fact, when the former president called and said, I really want you to endorse me and I'd love for you to be somewhere on Saturday, I said, off the table. I've got something more important to do on Saturday. It's the second most important decision you'll make in a lifetime. Making Jesus Christ the Lord of my life was number 1, and the woman I'm going to marry, number 2. And so going to the beach and getting on my knee and asking Mindy to marry me was so much more important than anything else. And I wanted to make sure that that sacred day would not be disturbed by anything political.
Well, she's a beautiful, talented young woman. I wish you all the best. My question I'll ask you later on. I know how you got down on one knee. I just don't know at our age how you get back up off that one knee, but we'll talk about that later. Best wishes to Mindy. Congratulations to you. We'll see you soon.
Wow. So congratulations. Of course, all the rumors going around about Tim Scott, they say, he's single and he's in his 40s. Oh, please, knock it off. A lot of things going on about Lindsey Graham as well. But the former candidate for president, Tim Scott, got down on his knee, as you saw the picture just a moment ago, and proposed to Mindy, I'm going to say Noce, N-O-C-E. You come up with your own pronunciation. They got engaged over the weekend and did it on Saturday, and telling Donald Trump, and I'm sure he understood that, hey, I've got something more important to do than be the former president of the United States. And once again, I say this is another nail in the coffin for Nikki Haley's campaign. And if she were smart, she'd be dropping out of this thing right now. The New Hampshire primary is tomorrow. Interestingly enough, on the Democrat side, Joe Biden is not on the ballot. The Democrats are running around telling people, you got to write that name in, okay? It's down near the bottom or something along those lines. I have no idea how this happened, but the Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves for taking New Hampshire out of number one and making South Carolina number one in the primaries. But congratulations to Tim Scott on his engagement. Meanwhile, why are people voting for Donald Trump? That was one of the questions that Trey Gowdy was asking there. And we know his track record. We've seen that. I remember when Rudy Giuliani was running for president on my radio show. I had him on a couple of times. He was a delightful guy. And when I was out interviewing him, I said, I may not particularly like all of your policies, Mr. Mayor, but one of the things that I do like, I have seen what you do under pressure. I've seen what you do under fire, how he turned New York City around, going after the mob and getting people arrested, cleaning up the streets when everybody said it couldn't be done after the disastrous years of David Dinkins, one of the most incompetent boobs in the history of the planet. And New Yorkers, what is it with you having to elect idiots? But nevertheless, here you go. He turns New York City around. It becomes from going one of the most crime-ridden cities to one of the safest cities. And then, of course, the Democrats have since ruined it. But nevertheless, I said, I saw how you reacted on 9/11. He had just gone out of office, or was about to go out of office. But he took things by the reins, and he pulled people together along with President George Bush after the 9/11 disaster. And so I said, so we know what Donald Trump can do. And all the lies that we're hearing, the other side is saying, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals as you accuse the other side of what you're doing. They're accusing Donald Trump and what a second term of his would be after all the things that not only Joe Biden is doing, but going on now. Now, this is why people are voting for Donald Trump. One New Hampshire voter was asked that just yesterday.
I met Hugh, who's going to give us a little bit of what he's thinking. So it's a narrowing field. We're now down to 3 candidates, 1 week away from the primary. Who are you voting for on Tuesday?
Trump.
Okay, you said that with confidence. Why are you voting for President Trump on Tuesday?
Because things are out of control right now. The price of fuel, the price of housing, the price of health insurance, the price of groceries, it's just out of control. And when Trump was in office, people had more money left in their paycheck, and he did a better job.
Arriving yesterday in New Hampshire, this is the streets lined with people just ecstatic about him being there, despite the fact that their very popular governor, Sununu, has endorsed Nikki Haley. And I don't mind him endorsing Nikki Haley. The things that he said about Donald Trump are incorrigible. But he doesn't deserve to get back in the Oval Office, and we need to keep him away and all of that. Look up Ronald Reagan, sir. Of saying, thou shalt, the 11th commandment, thou shalt not talk badly about a fellow Republican. Now, you can say all you want to about whether or not you like Donald Trump and you liked his attitude or anything else. He kept us out of war. We had the best economy in the history of this country. We had the lowest inflation in the history of this country. Right now with Joe Biden, you now have to make $11,000 more a year to have the same lifestyle. How does that grab you? And you don't think, and Trump himself has said that he wants to amend all the fences. He wants us to come together, and he said he is. There's one nickname he's getting rid of as well, and we'll be hearing about that very shortly.
Okay. He just said, "Will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious?" I said, "That name is officially retired."
Something else that the media loves to ignore because they have the power. That's one of the biggest powers, is the power to ignore. One of the things that they love to ignore the most is the March for Life. We're going to be talking about that and the significance coming up next. Stay tuned and stay real.
serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit. Welcome back to Get Real America. Brittany is on assignment, and she'll be back shortly. Meanwhile, the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship are all set, with the Chiefs taking on the Ravens at 3 o'clock on Sunday, and then it will be the Lions going against the 49ers in the NFC Championship at 6:30 this coming Sunday. We'll talk more about that later in the show. Something else happened over the weekend. This is one of the events that the media just loves to ignore, the March for Life. And it's been going on for years, and it took a while, but they finally got Roe v. Wade overturned a couple of years ago. And, of course, that sent the left into an absolute tailspin. And the Republicans, I think, didn't realize the reaction this was going to have on the left and how much it was going to energize their base to get out and vote. And I think that's one of the reasons we didn't see the red tsunami that we were expecting last year, although we should have had one. But March for Life took place this weekend. Rachel Campos Duffy on Fox and Friends Weekend had a chance to talk with a young lady who has started an organization as well as a business to support the March for Life. This is really cool, and it has to do with diapers, of all things.
Well, thousands of pro-life demonstrators are gathering in our nation's capital in the snow yesterday for the 51st annual March for Life. The action will continue in D.C. today with the National Pro-Life Summit. Sarah Gable Seifert is the president and co-founder of Every Life, who was at the March for Life yesterday, and she joins us now. Sarah, so great to have you. So tell us about your company.
Thank you so much for having me. Every Life is the first pro-life diaper company that believes every child is a gift from God, deserving of love, protection, and celebration. We provide a premium, high-performing product, and we give back. We are all about helping parents who have chosen life for their babies. We donate diapers and wipes to pregnancy centers in urgent need, and we are here for parents who are passionate about shopping in alignment with their values. We need people standing for life, and at Every Life, we're so proud to be available. We launched in July, and we are the fastest growing diaper company America has ever seen.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm going to tell you, I had heard about you. I am going to go out and buy them now. I have one. My last baby is still in diapers. And you're right. We need to start shopping in ways that align with our values. Now, you also put up a giant billboard in Times Square quoting Elon Musk. Tell us about it.
We sure did. Elon Musk said having children is saving the world. And at Every Life, we 100% endorse that message. We put a simple, powerful statement underneath that says, make more babies. We believe that we need more children in this world, not less. And it's really sad to see how many women, especially in their fertile years, that are saying, I don't want children, or I'm going to put it off, and then realize later on that they wish that they would have started sooner in life. And I think a lot of that is because there's a message that's being projected from climate change, crazy depopulation control ideologies, and we are saying that we need more children, and that children are not an inconvenience. They're not a burden. They're not a threat to our earth. They're actually the opposite. They're the very thing that we need to see a healthy nation. We need strong families. That's how we prosper. That's how we grow. Children are our hope. They're our future. They're our legacy. And so we hope that by putting this billboard up loud and proud in Times Square, that it will tell America and encourage moms and dads to have more children, because that is how we continue on and have a strong nation.
Yeah, the population control people have been doing their work for many decades, and we're starting, as you said, to see the fruits of that. It's really great to see a counter message going out from you, from also somebody as powerfully and culturally influential as Elon Musk. I remember Mother Teresa once said, saying there's too many children is like saying there's too many flowers. I couldn't agree more. I love your message. You can be sure you have another customer in me. I'm going to get on my phone right now and make sure I order from you. I love it. The message is make more babies. I'm doing my part. America, get on board.
Yeah, Rachel Campos Duffy is doing her part. She said 9 kids. So, I know the Lord said, go forth and multiply and replenish the earth, but you're not supposed to do it all by yourself. Thank you very much. But one of the things that we talk about, and we have talked with Paula Kennard here, who has started Thrive, among other great organizations that are saving lives here. Over 700 have been saved by her organization that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And the millions, we talk about now how we need all these illegal immigrants to come in here because we need these people to do all this different work. And you hear these kids because they have believed all the crap that they've heard in the media about the world is going to end in 12 years. We heard that about 20 years ago, and it hasn't happened. We heard it, and we heard all the time. You have AOC and the rest of her Confederates running around with this nonsense, and Greta Van Thunberg, or whatever her name is. One of the things that are scaring these kids is saying, well, I'm not going to bring a child into this world because it's not going to last much longer. That is just stupid. We need more Americans. We need more kids. And like I said, we need more babies. And what about the legacy of your life? Talked to Paula back in October, as a matter of fact, talking about what Thrive does and the importance of saving children.
My name is Paula Kennard, and I am the Executive Director of Thrive Express Savannah. United for Life to His Glory is our umbrella corporation, and we are now 7 years old today. And what God has done in this time is so magnificent, we can only shout, only God. It literally, this whole idea started on 34th Street in front of the abortion clinic that had operated in Savannah for 40 years in our beautiful historic downtown. So many people in Savannah were not even aware of it, but we know that over 100,000 babies were killed in that place. And Debbie Blackburn with Coastal Right to Life actually started a 40 Days for Life prayer campaign. And I came to pray, having no idea how the Lord would use that to open my eyes and call me into action. So I started by praying.
When you say 100,000, that's almost half the population of Savannah.
And that's how many babies lost their lives with their mothers and grandmothers and fathers paying the abortionist on 34th Street to end the life of their child.
So this facility that you have now is almost a proverbial dream come true.
It is the antidote to what we saw. During the 40 Days for Life campaign, it was actually on an Ash Wednesday at 7 a.m. that February. I was there to pray for my vigil. and the Lord revealed his glory. He literally covered up the abortion clinic and the mosque with a radiance that's hard to imagine. I've actually got some pictures of it, just that I snapped with my cell phone. But I knew then that he was showing me something, and sure enough, we kept praying, and then came Thrive Savannah, and then after that, we were able to take our mobile down and have a presence on 34th Street. And the actual day that Roe reversed, the clinic closed, having really nothing to do with each other except that God wanted us to be sure to find that out. But he actually closed the clinic on that day. And we had already located in front of the Planned Parenthood that most Savannahans don't know still operates. And although to our knowledge, they do not do the surgical abortions, they certainly have been involved in many of the chemical abortions. And as we have observed in the last couple of years, the Savannah Planned Parenthood is obviously involved in the mutilation, the transitioning of young men to women and young men into women, young women into men, and which we all understand is an absolute impossibility, but it is just a nightmare and a grief to watch the tormented souls that go in. Men in fishnet hose or women trying to dress and walk like a man. And of course, with the hormones, and they talk like a man. And we pray and we pray and we invite them into a compassionate conversation if they're interested.
How have you turned people around? I know sometimes you stand outside the planned infanticide clinic and ask, what people are doing there, or people come to you and think they're at Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely. We have had, and I would have to go back and look at our statistics, but it's about a 50% turn away. We call it diversions. And honestly, if they're there for abortion, those are the main ones that we want to talk with. We invite them into our center for our pre-abortion screening that involves the medical grade pregnancy test, that involves a limited obstetric ultrasound, and STD testing and treatment. We encourage them not to go through with another procedure until they're sure it's a viable pregnancy, until they're sure the pregnancy is in the uterus and not in the fallopian tube, and that they know they're free from STD. So we will test and treat. We do all of that at no cost. And just as a side note, we also provide post-abortion counseling for the young women who choose abortion. We do not abandon them. We continue to reach out, because as in my story, I aborted my second child, and the enemy used that to really torment me for many years. But I found at the cross of Jesus Christ full forgiveness, and I found out that his word is true, that we overcome the enemy. Who is our enemy? Jesus said he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus also told us, I've come that they might have life and have it abundantly, have it to the fullest. So I can tell you firsthand that we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb, which is my salvation, my receiving the blood as full payment for all of my sin, including my abortion. And then by the word of my testimony that I can tell other young women, it is not the relief and the cure that you have been told, that there really is an everlasting component to it, and that we want to use our lives, that we don't love our lives to the death, that we use our lives to serve the Lord, to introduce others into a God not of hatred and wrath, but a God who will forgive. And he is standing, he's asking them, whatever your circumstances, whatever mistakes you've made, however you've butchered your body or others, that today he's calling unto you to come to him, to receive forgiveness, and to receive the inheritance that you have as a follower of Christ, the inheritance to change the world as we know it, to do what he has called you to do.
And through your facility, and we hear these stories all the time of once a young lady comes in and sees that really is a child,
Yes, sir.
that it turns things around pretty rapidly.
We have been in that tiny center, less than 900 square feet, or less than 1,000, right at 900 square feet. To date, or through the end of July, we have had 5,400 patient visits. We have had 1,193 young women who were abortion determined. They have chosen life. 1,193 babies have been born. We just recently had one of our first ones start pre-K. And I saw the picture, her mom sent it to me. I said, may we use that? We sent it out in an email. So Thrive Savannah is affecting generations. I didn't think about my abortion generationally until my granddaughter was born. Mm-hmm. And the day I got the call and there was an urgency, there was an emergency, things were not going well with the delivery. And I was driving from Savannah to Atlanta, praying, as you can imagine, the whole time. And my eyes were opened. So my son was having his first child. My daughter that I aborted would never have a child. So not only did I abort her, but I ended that line of that generation. So we are making, when I tell you 1,193 babies saved, that is a generational number that will, we believe, affect eternity in the kingdom of God.
And you have the up-to-date modern equipment. You've got state-of-the-art stuff.
We have got state-of-the-art ultrasound machines. We have the one in our center is a very expensive, very accurate piece of equipment that not only shows the young ladies the baby in the womb and it shows them the heartbeat, but it has the Doppler so that they can hear the heartbeat and they can see. And we were blessed by Focus on the Family, who examined our ministry carefully and decided that yes, we were able to receive that marvelous gift that was very pricey. And then another group called Preborn gave us the fabulous state-of-the-art ultrasound machine for our mobile unit. So the same thing, when we have our nurses and sonographers on the mobile unit, we can have a client go through all of the procedures that she can in our clinic. And she can also receive the pregnancy test, the STD testing, but most importantly, she can receive the ultrasound. And she can not only see her baby and the heartbeat, but she can hear the heartbeat, because that one also has a Doppler. And we're able to give them pictures. But I told you, we consider that ultrasound an audition for life. Mm-hmm. The babies often truly put on a show. And it's almost like they are saying, I am here and I am alive. Isn't it interesting that if we find a molecule on Mars, we start jumping up and down and we say, look, there's life. And here we still have a whole sector of our population who tries to deny the humanity of the baby in the womb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, keep up the Lord's work here, Paula. Obviously, you're saving lots of lives and that lineage that you talked about. And how can people help?
We need to build up what we call our Champions for Life Army. And that goes many different ways. We need more medical volunteers. We love our nurses, our nurse practitioners. We need sonographers. When we have a nurse that we know has the vision of Thrive, we will actually train her to do the ultrasound. So we need more medical team. We also need non-medical. We need young women, especially, that we can train as advocates to sit down and to hear the stories of the young women, to know what their needs are and then try to meet. And even as today, you've seen, we have the baby boutique. So we need women that are willing to come in to sort through our donations, to keep the baby boutique really an asset, that the girls know that they're being blessed. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. We need a representative, a contact in all of our churches in our area that will be the conduit to talk about things like our upcoming event that we're having on September 7th out at the Palmetto Club at the Landings. Danny Goki, we're so excited, is going to be our guest that evening. And we heard Danny Goki at a conference in Louisville, Kentucky this year. And what really got our attention? The way he led that crowd in worship. So we've asked Danny to come to Savannah to bless our people with that same worship. And Bill, just so you know, he's working on a patriotic album, and he is bringing some of his patriotic music with him. I assured him it would be well received in Savannah, Georgia.
Amen to that. All right. And we've heard about attacks on pro-life clinics. Had any trouble here?
We have been very blessed. I think part of it is our location, that we're inside a building. During those days, actually for several weeks after Roe's reversal, when some of the groups were really acting out, we had what we called a security watch. So we had eyes on our building, on our doors 24/7. And although there might have been a couple of cars show up, they knew they were being filmed and recorded, and they decided to leave. So we can tell you that outside of a little damage to our mobile unit that we know is vandalism, outside of that, we have been protected and blessed.
Keep up the Lord's work. Thank you.
Amen, sir. Thank you.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
Scary that it can be put into anything, and we can't even see it or notice it.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit. Welcome back to Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards, and Brittany has the day off. And you notice from Paula's interview, one of the things that we have failed to mention on numerous occasions is that generational experience, which she said when her granddaughter was born, it hit her like the proverbial ton of bricks. that this one line was cut off because she'd had an abortion earlier in life. If you ever saw the motion picture Schindler's List, and I do highly recommend it to you, at the end, you will see all the people that Schindler had saved, or that were here now because Schindler had saved them and got them out. And a very emotional scene toward the end of the picture where he breaks down because he felt like he hadn't saved enough. If I'd only sold this car, I could have saved 5 more people. If I'd only done this, I could have saved 3 more. If I had done this, and he felt heartbroken over the fact that he couldn't have saved more. But they showed all these people coming across the screen who would not have been here had it not been for Schindler. So I do highly recommend that picture for you. Steve Stanton has made a couple of comments for us here this morning. Good buddy Steve Sr. said he's heard all this back in the 70s about the end of the world coming. And also he said God bless Thrives and all their efforts to stop murder. And that's what we need to do. We stop being Mr. Nice Guy about what abortion is. It is infanticide. It is murder. This is a person. It's not, they try to wash the blood off their hands on the left by saying that this is, a non-viable tissue mass. So those who, when I saw this March for Death that they had here in Savannah about a year ago, and this girl was so proud that she'd had 2 abortions and her mother helped her. I said, thinking about it, so her mother helped her kill her grandchildren. That's not much of a mom if you ask me. But nevertheless, good often, and this goes on. They tried to paint Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, into a box yesterday when she was on the Communist Broadcast System's Mace the Nation.
So your state, you're talking about the sanctity of life. Your state had one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country, according to the CDC, up until about 2021. Arkansas is one of the few states that hasn't extended postpartum care for mothers. Why don't you want those moms to get care for a full 12 months, as is being offered, instead of just 60 days?
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with the premise of your question, saying that I don't want that. I certainly want us to do everything that we can to help during pregnancy and well after a child is born, which is why we have done things like focus on the foster and adoption care. We've put significant funding into our pregnancy crisis centers. We're focusing on things that help our mothers, including bring your kids to work at state government. We've expanded maternity leave for state employees. We included that in our education package. We have taken a number of steps that are very positive in this front, and we're going to continue to do that as long as I'm governor.
With the states of Mississippi, Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota, they did extend for 12 months rather than the 60 days. So I'm just wondering specifically on that option, why you opted out.
We're going to continue to look at options that we feel like best help people here in the state of Arkansas. We've done that in a number of ways, and we're going to continue to do that over the course of hopefully the next 7 years while I'm governor of Arkansas.
Don't bring a knife to a gunfight, okay? Don't try to paint Sarah Huckabee Sanders into a corner. She is brilliant, and I think she'll be a great president of the United States one day. We have a female president. I hope it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Meanwhile, Rand Paul has been at it, talking about some of the things about Nikki Haley's record on the campaign trail and why he is starting something called Never Nikki.
Good morning, everyone. As I told you yesterday, I'm ready to say something about the presidential race. I've had a long relationship with Donald Trump, and there's a lot to like there. I'm also a big fan of a lot of the fiscal conservatism of Ron DeSantis. I think Vivek Ramaswamy's been an important voice. Also have listened to and met with the independent Bobby Kennedy. I'm not yet ready to make a decision, but I am ready to make a decision on someone who I cannot support. So I'm announcing this morning that I'm Never Nikki. And if you go to nevernikki.net, you can let her know that you're not a supporter either. I don't think any informed or knowledgeable libertarian or conservative should support Nikki Haley. I've seen her attitude towards our interventions overseas. I've seen her involvement in the military-industrial complex, $8 million being paid to become part of the team. But I've also seen her indicate that she thinks you should be registered to use the internet, that people posting ideas anonymously, I think she fails to understand that our republic was founded upon people like Ben Franklin, Sam Adams, Madison, John Jay, and others who posted routinely. For fear of the government, they posted routinely anonymously. And I think her failure to really understand that, or to think that you should register through the government somehow for the internet, is something that should disqualify her in the minds of all libertarian-leaning conservatives. So I'm announcing today I'm Never Nikki. You can go to nevernikki.net and sign up and show her that you're Never Nikki also. Thanks.
I'm with you, kid. By the way, Nikki has a mean streak that most of the press is not reporting yet. Of course, if she get, depending on how prominent she gets, of course, they will be revealing everything. But I remember she was governor of South Carolina, and I had her on for an interview on my radio show. And then I had scheduled her for another interview a few months later. And somehow I had managed to overlap an interview that I was doing also with Governor Nathan Deal at the time. And she called in, and I had to politely put her off, say, I profusely apologize. I double booked this for, I don't know how I did it, but I have Governor Deal on. I felt as a Georgian, even though probably a third of my audience was South Carolinians. I said, I profusely apologize. Let's reschedule this. But I've scheduled Governor Deal first. Went with his interview, and she's promised, okay, we'll do that. A few weeks later, she was in Ridgeland for the opening of a new business there. And I bought a bouquet of flowers to take to her. I gave her the flowers, and I, again, apologized to her in person, saying, I profusely apologize. I don't know how that happened, but, my people will get back to your people type thing. She was very gracious. She took that and said, yeah, we would get together. Never heard, she was only about a year into her governorship. Never heard from her the next 3 years. Nothing. So, I'm with the Never Nikki crowd as well, even though I think she's a nice lady. Nevertheless, one of the things that they are trying to do, of course, we have warned you time and time again about some of these people. I remember a friend of mine some years back said, I think there are only about 5 or 6 people who are really running the world and telling us what to do. And I poo-pooed that, and I said, oh, please. Then we have all these meetings they have in Davos and elsewhere with these people trying to run our lives with the equipment and the technology to do it. The fascists and the European Union are preparing to shut down opposition speech. Just listen to this.
Dear Klaus, let me go back to the number one concern of the Global Risk Report: disinformation and misinformation. Tackling this has been our focus since the very beginning of my mandate. With our Digital Services Act, we defined the responsibilities of large internet platforms on the content they promote and propagate, a responsible to children and vulnerable groups targeted by hate speech, but also a responsibility to our societies as a whole. Because the boundary between online and offline is getting thinner and thinner. And the values we cherish offline should also be protected online. And this is even more important in this new era of generative AI. Now, the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report puts artificial intelligence as one of the top potential risks for the next decade.
That is Ursula von der Leyen, president of the EU Commission, describing how they plan to establish control over the social media platforms and the latest form of media outside of their control. The Führer would be pleased. Hitler and his Confederates and all of his lieutenants would have been delighted to have all the equipment that we have today and all the modern technology that we have today to shut down people's thoughts as well as destroy their lives. And we have it continuing to happen here. And people like this are dangerous. And who decides what's right and what's wrong? Hydroxychloroquine was one of the safest drugs that was ever developed almost 80 years ago. Been prescribed by doctors for years with very little, if any, side effects whatsoever. The pill now cost about, I think it was like 50 cents or something along those lines. It was discovered that hydroxychloroquine could pretty much wipe out COVID-19. Numerous people were calling into the Sean Hannity show, among others, to let them know that, hey, I was on critical, I was in the ICU, I was at death's door, started taking hydroxychloroquine, and it cleared him right up within a week or two. A little 50-cent pill. But that didn't fit the narrative or the agenda of the left to control our lives. We had to have all of this, and I apologize for Donald Trump falling for it. But, you know, you think Anthony Fauci, with his background and record, would have been, you know, the source to go to. Although he's now admitting that he made stuff up like the 6 feet distancing and all of that crap. And the masks, at first he said, you know, masks won't do you a damn bit of good. And then all of a sudden he was up to 2 masks a few months later. This is what we've been hearing from the left. All of a sudden, hydroxychloroquine became the most deadly pharmaceutical pill that was ever invented. Pharmacies were prevented from distributing it. Doctors were prevented or were threatened with losing their license if they prescribed it. So these are the people that you want controlling and telling you what's right and what's wrong? When we had a cure for COVID-19 and they took it off the market to give you these vaccines that we now have people dropping like flies that have taken it, young people. Just had a 35-year-old fitness guru, was probably fully vaccinated, who died of a heart attack a couple of weeks ago. These are the people you want running your lives. What's happened to our society? My wife and I went to see The Beekeeper. I highly recommend it to a degree if you like one of those shoot 'em up bad guys, good guy against taking on the mob and the bad guys. However, if the F word were not in the English language, they couldn't have written the script. Nevertheless, an entertaining film and a good popcorn movie. But we have to watch about a half an hour of trailers before the feature comes on when you go to the movies these days, besides all the commercials that they drop in as well. This supposedly keeps the price of the ticket down. You know, you go to get a popcorn and a Coke and a couple of tickets to a movie, and you hope they have 8.5% financing. But the previews that we saw from some of the upcoming films, I said, no wonder we're in bad shape. Marvel comic stuffs, and they have all of these. We'll show you when we get a chance. We have all these weird vehicles that are running into each other and people falling into pits and everything else, and you have no idea what the hell's going on. But this is just one of the films that's coming out very shortly from Disney. Cinderella's Curse. Walt has to be spinning like a lathe in his grave that they are destroying Cinderella and all of the stuff that the people who are running Disney now, a pox on both their houses. Shame on you for destroying this brand. Shame on you for all this woke culture garbage that you're coming up with and redoing all the old cartoons and putting up disclaimers at the beginning of like Dumbo or Bambi or anything else, saying, you know, well, this was done at another time, you know, and you have to understand the culture of the time. Now, I understand the culture of the time. This is when we could, you know, keep our doors unlocked. Cinderella's Curse. What they've done, and we need to be going against this, just like that movie that came out, Silent Night, Deadly Night, where they tried to turn, where the movie tried to come out with Santa Claus being a serial killer, and the outrage was overwhelming. This was about 30 years ago, and they kept the movie off the screen. Fortunately. We ought to be doing the same thing with this. And some of the other vampire things that we saw that were coming attractions, it was absolutely nauseating, extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, the folks in New England, I'm sorry. Once again, foiled for the Super Bowl. It turns out that wide right is not just a little expression in football. It's happened to them again. As yesterday, the Buffalo Bills were taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, when they do, you might have to WWTSD. What would Taylor Swift do? Well, here we go. As Buffalo is taking on, and they're trailing 27-24, field goal getting ready. Tyler Bass lining up a field goal with just about 2 or 3 minutes left in the ball game. This would tie things up. If Kansas City doesn't score, it goes into overtime, and it kind of looked like this.
After his 1-for-3 performance last week, he has tremendous support in the building. If he has to make one for us, the game on the line, he will. 44 yards, Bass. No, he doesn't make it. Wide right. Wow. The two most dreaded words in Buffalo have surfaced again.
What an unbelievable stand. Kansas City really did stand up and make it very difficult on every 3 plays to make it. Buffalo just didn't have anything easy, no big plays. And to me, the pressure of that moment, it's just so intense, Jim. It's not over here right now,
got 2
but
timeouts
Kansas
for the
City
Bills.
is definitely in a driver's seat. And Mahomes knows how big that was right there. So moving it forward right now, you've got 2 timeouts. If you can get a 3 and out, if you're Kansas City, no incompletions. If you make it where you at least get 3 plays off and you ran it just pretending you have it under a minute to go, you'd have 55 seconds at best.
Pacheco time. Pacheco still going. Oh, that is a big run and second effort to pick up 8 or 9. Timeout called by Buffalo.
And that Kansas City has impressed me all day with their ability to run the football, and they might be the team who...
Yep, it's happened and raised its ugly head again, because it was 33 years ago, January 27th, 1991, when Scott Norwood lined up a field goal trailing 20-19 in the Super Bowl against the New York Giants and missed, you guessed it, wide right. Well, we're here on the far right, and we'll be here again tomorrow. We'll see you then. Stay real.